Has there ever been a brand name like Google? Non-existent 6 years ago, it's now a global verb, as in, I Googled this, or I Googled that, or I Googled you. To Google, definition, to look anything up on the internet using Google's supercomputer and get an instant answer. The company that began as a school project is now worth about as much as Ford and General Motors combined, thanks to a stock that has roughly doubled in price since it went public last August. And for the first time since, Google has opened its doors to let us Google them.
Here coming around, we have North America.
Oh, look at that. Google co-founder Sergey Brin is showing us an electronic globe that displays the mountains of Google searches happening around the world at any given moment.
So every little dot represents a certain number of searches, but you can see that there are thousands of searches going on every second. Now you can see Europe.
And these are all different languages, right?
Yeah.
All the different colors.
Yeah.
Oh, Europe is really going strong. 200 million times a day, someone somewhere uses Google to search for something on the internet. An old boyfriend, a new boyfriend, a new gadget, a used car, serious, frivolous. Type in Paris Hilton, and Google's computers, roughly 100,000 of them, search the entire internet for every mention of her, 6.5 million, and every picture, 6,500, in half a second. Looking at the Googleplex, company headquarters in Silicon Valley, it's hard to imagine that just a few years ago, the company basically consisted of the Russian-born Brin and co-founder Larry Page, working in a converted garage.
Our boardroom table was also our ping pong table, so it had the net and everything.
And the dress code?
Well, I'm probably a bit embarrassed when I look at the photos back then. I think we were pretty much disheveled students.
A lot of Googlers still look like disheveled students. Inside, the Googleplex feels more like a college dorm than a corporate office. Bikes in the hallways, dogs under the desks. And there's a strong spirit of play. Besides all the ping pong, there's a volleyball game every day at noon.
This is really where we spend, the overwhelming majority of our time. And so in order to have a good lifestyle, we had to have a good lifestyle at work, which meant that, you do have lots of sports and things. We have our ski trip.
Me together?
The whole company goes on a ski trip.
Still?
Yeah, well, we're going to have to, it's going to be hard this winter, but we're going to try for it. Yeah.
How many people work here?
It's approaching 3,000.
Whoa. It's going to be a big ski trip. You're going to have your own mountain. Then again, you can afford it.
Well,
Google can afford a lot of things these days, and so can its employees, many of whom had stock options. Something like 1,000 became millionaires when the stock went public. And Brin and Page, barely into their 30s, are worth about $6 billion each.
Okay, so now which camera should we buy?
But they are doing everything they can to keep the money from becoming a distraction. Brin treated the day the company went public as just another workday.
And everybody was focused on their projects. One of the engineers I talked to, and I asked him what his plans were, and he said he was going to throw out all of his socks and buy new ones so they would all match. They'd all be the same kind. So that was the kind of extravagance that we're seeing here.
Have you gone out and splurged on anything yourself?
I bought the shirt.
A new T-shirt. Wow. No Jaguar?
No, I still have a little Japanese car.
If anyone got a Porsche or a Ferrari right now at Google, they'd probably be drummed out of the company.
John Battelle is an author and entrepreneur who's been following companies in Silicon Valley for 20 years.
Google has a brand image to maintain, and their image is they're all about innovation, they're all about the internet, they're all about trust, they're not about selling out, they're not about getting rich quick. And so you've got a culture like that. I think if anyone were to buy, a new Mercedes convertible and drive around with the stereo blaring and, miss work a couple days because they're rich now, that would not be acceptable behavior at Google. That was acceptable.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, so the peer pressure is kicked in. But trust me, there's a Mercedes convertible in every one of their heads. There is. And it will come out. Over time, it will come out.
As if to prove they're not being distracted by the money, Google has been on a tear in the months since going public, with what seems to be a new product announced every week, Google Print, to make millions of books searchable online, including collections at Harvard, Oxford, and other leading libraries. Google Desktop, which lets you search your own computer's hard drive, and another new addition called Keyhole.
It's satellite imagery, so it's basically photography of the world taken from above.
Google executive Marissa Mayer, yeah, most of them are this young, showed us how Keyhole can find an aerial photo of almost any address.
So if I search for Amphitheater Parkway, which is our address here, you can see it starts to do this nice zoom in.
The Googleplex, here we come. Ooh, look at that. Oh, that is cool.
And we're somewhere right in here.
Somewhere in here, more new ideas are being hatched. Google's style is to race them out in beta form. That means not finished yet, and let users play with them for free and make suggestions. Actually, almost everything on Google's home page is free. No one pays to search.
So we can search for something like flowers.
Oh, flowers is wonderful.
So people always ask us how Google makes money. And you can see here are the 10 objective results.
On the left side of the screen, you get the top 10 websites Google found related to flowers.
But we also have what we call sponsored links.
Now, these are these ads over here, and you just clicked on one of the ads.
That's right.
This is how Google makes money.
This is how Google makes money.
When she clicked on that ad for FTD, FTD paid Google. It's a revolutionary idea, advertising to an audience of one, and one who's already looking for what you want to sell. The rates are so low, typically between 5 cents and 50 cents per click, that almost anyone can afford to advertise, from the biggest company to the smallest mom and pop. Eric Schmidt, Google's 49-year-old CEO, who Brin and Page hired in 2001 to be the resident grown-up, says that the pool of potential advertisers is almost limitless.
And there's a lot of evidence that the companies of which Google is a member are enabling a new kind of commerce between very small communities, people who can find each other, for whom the traditional advertising mechanisms, whether it's television advertising or radio, do not serve. An example, a friend of mine named Peter puts his credit card in and he gives us $50. And his wife knits a particular kind of rug. And so I said, call me back, give me an update. So Peter calls back and says, we're ecstatic. For $50, we got all these customers. And I said, well, how many did you get? And he said, 100. And I thought, wow, that's great. What a wonderful outcome. And he said, there's a problem. What's the problem? My wife does one rug per year. So that's all the revenue we're ever going to get from Peter.
But there are millions of Peters out there and billions in potential ad revenue. The business world is just beginning to grasp the potential.
And Google should be careful because there are some other companies that have it in their sites, such as Microsoft.
And that's a big deal when Microsoft comes after you.
It is indeed.
Bill Gates has admitted that, quote, Google kicked our butt in internet search. Bill Gates doesn't like to have his butt kicked. So he just launched a prototype of a Microsoft search engine.
Bill Gates breathing down your necks. Do you feel this? Do you feel a pressure?
We do not today. It's perfectly possible that the current competitors can all compete and coexist actually quite well, at least for a few years. So I disagree with the people who say that this is a zero-sum game.
But while you say you don't think it's a zero-sum game, that's not the way Bill Gates has gone about running his company. He tends to think, he has to be the one.
I believe, we believe, that this space will have many players, of which we'll be one significant one. I really do.
It's Google's strategy to downplay the threat from Gates, but that doesn't mean they're not fighting back. The company's new product, a piece of software called Google Desktop, which anyone can download for free, organizes all the files on your computer. That's one of the things Microsoft Windows does.
Isn't that a direct challenge at Microsoft?
Google Desktop is a direct challenge at Microsoft. There's no question about it. Google is going after Microsoft, but they would never tell you that they're doing that because they don't want to paint a huge target on their back, right?
And so the war is on. Just before Christmas, Microsoft shot back with a similar desktop search product. And Yahoo, another competitor, announced plans to do the same. But Google is betting that its troops will continue to innovate faster than anyone else's.
Everyone assumes that we're busy competing in the last war, when in fact we're going to invent something new. That's how Google works. Whatever product idea I have is from the old times, and they say, oh, Eric, what a stupid idea. Why don't you try this new idea, which I haven't thought about? That's the genius of Google.
Where did that genius come from in the first place, and where is Google going? How are they going to change the world and our lives in the future? We'll see in a minute. Multi-billionaires Sergey Brin and Larry Page, the 31 and 32-year-old founders of Google, still share one tiny office at company headquarters. That's the way they've always worked.